In October 2022, the peaceful routine of the city was interrupted by an unexpected and troubling discovery. Two cyclists, enjoying their early morning ride, found a woman who appeared unresponsive in a secluded area, far from major highways. Her clothing was slightly damaged and appeared dirty. Authorities arrived quickly, securing the location and beginning their initial investigation. During their examination, investigators noted signs suggesting the woman had been moved from another location, including tire tracks and other markings on the ground. The circumstances surrounding the incident immediately prompted further investigation. Dear viewers, please don't forget to like, leave a comment under the video, and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new videos. This is very important to us. In this documentary, we will examine the true crime connected to Ariadna Fernanda Lopez Diaz, who was born on July 5, 1995, in one of the most economically challenged neighborhoods of Mexico City. Her childhood was marked by the stark realities of limited resources, yet it was far from devoid of warmth and care. Raised in a small, tightly knit household, Ariadna's family consisted of her hardworking mother and her older brother Omar, who quickly became her protector and role model. Their lives were further complicated by the absence of a father figure, a man who had distanced himself both emotionally and physically from his responsibilities. Despite his indifference, Ariadna and her family found strength in their unity, holding each other together through mutual support and love. Omar, 5 years older than Ariadna, assumed the role of a father figure with unwavering dedication. He encouraged her dreams, consoled her during her fears, and instilled in her a sense of security that would follow her throughout her life. Ariadna, for her part, idolized her brother and reciprocated his care with boundless affection. This bond between the brother and sister formed a cornerstone of Ariadna's identity, granting her the confidence to navigate a world often fraught with challenges. From a young age, Ariadna exhibited a naturally warm and approachable personality that endeared her to everyone she met. Her sincerity, coupled with an innate willingness to help others, made her not just popular among her peers, but also a dependable friend. Her school years were defined by a network of close friendships, and she frequently shared her dreams and aspirations with her companions. In 2018, Ariadna's life took a tragic turn when her mother was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. At just 23 years old, Ariadna was thrust into a whirlwind of grief and responsibility as the illness progressed rapidly. The loss of their mother dealt a devastating blow to both Ariadna and Omar. It was a moment that marked the end of one chapter of their lives and the beginning of another. In the wake of this tragedy, Ariadna was forced to mature quickly. To honor her mother's memory, she had her name tattooed on her body, a permanent and poignant tribute to the woman who had given her so much. This act became a symbol of Ariadna's resilience and her commitment to carrying her mother's legacy forward. Before her mother's passing, Ariadna had met a young man who quickly became a significant figure in her life. Their relationship blossomed into a romance, and soon Ariadna discovered she was expecting a child. While the arrival of her son brought immense joy, it also ushered in new challenges. The young couple soon realized their paths were diverging. Despite their separation, they maintained an amicable relationship, co-parenting their son with mutual respect. Becoming a mother transformed Ariadna's world. She found herself balancing the demands of single parenthood with the need to secure a stable income. Her first step toward financial independence came in the form of a job at a popular upscale bar in Mexico City. This establishment, frequented by affluent patrons, demanded its employees maintain the highest standards of professionalism. Here, Ariadna developed the ability to interact with a diverse range of personalities, from the affable to the difficult. Her charisma, coupled with a strong work ethic, allowed her to excel despite the challenges that came with the role. Yet this phase of her life was not without its struggles. Long hours and the pressures of the job often weighed heavily on her, but Ariadna persevered, driven by her unwavering love for her son. When the pandemic swept across the globe, Ariadna's life was once again upended. The closure of the bar where she worked left her without a job, plunging her into uncertainty. Refusing to succumb to despair, Ariadna saw this as an opportunity to chase a long-held dream, opening her own beauty salon. With a determination born of necessity, she began to pour her time and energy into bringing this vision to life. Leveraging her network and the skills she had honed over the years, Ariadna successfully launched her salon, which soon became a reliable source of income. During this period, Ariadna met Nu, a man whose presence brought stability and happiness back into her life. Their connection was immediate, and the relationship blossomed into a source of joy and support. Balancing her responsibilities as a mother, business owner, and partner, Ariadna's days were filled with purpose. Despite the demands of her life, she managed to find contentment in the harmony she had created. By the age of 27, Ariadna's life appeared to be a carefully assembled puzzle, with each piece representing a challenge overcome or a milestone achieved. She had endured loss, rebuilt her life from the ground up, and created a stable future for herself and her son. It was during this period that she met Vanessa, a young woman who would introduce an unexpected element into Ariadna's world. Ariadna and Vanessa's paths crossed through mutual acquaintances at a lively social gathering. Vanessa's vibrant and magnetic personality immediately caught Ariadna's attention. Young, bold, and charismatic, Vanessa had an uncanny ability to connect with people, making her the center of attention wherever she went. However, those who knew her well often spoke of her dual nature. Beneath her charm lay a complex character, marked by unpredictability and sharp edges. It was this enigmatic quality that simultaneously fascinated and unsettled those around her. Vanessa's social circle included a variety of individuals, among them Rel, a middle-aged businessman who had gained a reputation for his influential connections and dealings. His reputation was shrouded in a complex web of rumors, built on his immense wealth, far-reaching influence, and an unapologetically lavish lifestyle. Rel was often seen surrounded by young women, many of whom were eager to be part of his enigmatic world. His reputation was often discussed through rumors about connections with influential figures and questionable networks, though none of his close associates could confirm these claims. Rel himself was a master of deflection, avoiding direct conversations about his past or his business dealings. Though Ariadna was intelligent, resourceful, and fiercely independent, she didn't immediately recognize how different her new acquaintances were from her usual social circle. Vanessa, for her part, seemed eager to impress Ariadna and often spoke glowingly about her connections with influential people, frequently bringing up Rel in their conversations. Vanessa painted him as a man who could solve any problem, someone whose reach extended far beyond. Vanessa's exuberance and charisma gradually drew Ariadna into their world. As Ariadna spent more time with Vanessa and her circle, the bonds between them deepened. Vanessa seemed genuinely captivated by Ariadna's personality, going out of her way to gain her trust and loyalty. Rel, intrigued by Ariadna after hearing about her from Vanessa, soon took a direct interest in her. Their first meeting was marked by Rel's remarkable ability to charm and engage. His attentiveness and conversational skills left an impression on Ariadna. His confidence and sophistication were undeniably appealing, and Ariadna, like many others, found herself drawn to him. However, beneath Rel's polished exterior lay a far more complex personality. Those who had dealings with him often described him as calculating and manipulative, but Ariadna's interactions with him painted a picture of a courteous and kind man. Vanessa's role in solidifying the connection between Ariadna and Rel was undeniable. She often invited Ariadna to gatherings where Rel would be present, creating an atmosphere of trust and camaraderie. These gatherings were lively and filled with laughter, drawing Ariadna further into their fold. However, over time, peculiar details began to emerge. Friends of Ariadna, who knew of Rel's questionable reputation and Vanessa's unpredictable nature, started to voice their concerns. They cautioned Ariadna to be wary, hinting that her new social connections could lead to unforeseen risks. Despite their warnings, Ariadna remained optimistic, viewing her friendship with Vanessa as a refreshing escape from the pressures of her daily life. She was intrigued by the opportunity to experience a world previously out of reach, one filled with glamour and excitement. Rel's efforts to win Ariadna over became increasingly evident. His gestures of generosity and friendliness seemed genuine to her, as he frequently extended invitations to dinners and parties. Ariadna, who was in a committed relationship with a young man, maintained her social interactions without any overt conflict. Her partner, described as trusting and supportive, didn't voice objections to her occasional outings. Meanwhile, Vanessa's influence grew stronger. She frequently called Ariadna, organizing meetups and encouraging her to join in various social activities. Rel, too, began to solidify his presence in Ariadna's life, offering assistance and support in subtle but impactful ways. On October 30, 2022, Ariadna accepted an invitation from Vanessa to join her for an evening with friends. The gathering was planned at a popular restaurant in downtown Mexico City. Vanessa assured Ariadna that it would be a relaxed and enjoyable evening, filled with good food and great company. Rel was also expected to attend, a fact that gave Ariadna a flicker of unease. Despite her growing reservations about Rel, she didn't want to jeopardize her friendship with Vanessa and decided to go along. The group came together that evening at the restaurant, a trendy venue known for its elegant interiors and a clientele that exuded wealth and status. The atmosphere was vibrant, with lively music and a bustling crowd creating an air of celebration. At their table, the mood was lighthearted and festive. Wine and cocktails flowed freely, accompanied by an array of expertly prepared appetizers. As the evening progressed, Rel naturally became the center of attention. His magnetic presence, combined with his ability to captivate an audience with his stories, drew everyone in. He interacted confidently with the staff, subtly showcasing his influence and command over any situation. Vanessa supported him seamlessly, adding playful commentary and keeping the energy of the conversation alive. The other guests eagerly followed the lead of Vanessa and Rel, trying their best to match the energy radiating from the evening's charismatic hosts. However, amidst the lively environment, Ariadna's behavior subtly stood out. She seemed slightly detached, frequently glancing at her phone, reading incoming messages, and typing responses with a concentrated expression. Her eyes occasionally lingered on Rel, as though she were attempting to decipher some hidden meaning behind his words or actions. Despite Vanessa's best efforts to engage her, inviting her into conversations and persuading her to sample another cocktail, Ariadna remained reserved. Her demeanor was calm yet distant, and her expression betrayed a sense of unease that suggested her mind was preoccupied with something far more significant than the vibrant scene unfolding around her. Midway through the evening, Ariadna's cryptic social media post sent a ripple of concern through her close-knit circle. This ambiguous message caused immediate alarm among her closest friends and family, many of whom recognized the unusual nature of her words. Ariadna had never been known to post anything resembling such dark humor or introspective musings, and the sudden shift left her loved ones unsettled. While some in her broader social circle dismissed the post as a passing joke or an attempt at attention, those who truly knew her could not shake the foreboding impression it left behind. As the evening progressed, Rel proposed that the group relocate to his house to continue their revelries in a more intimate setting. Vanessa immediately voiced her enthusiastic support for the idea, encouraging everyone to join. Ariadna hesitated, visibly uncertain about the suggestion. However, after some cajoling from Vanessa, who assured her that it would be a relaxed and enjoyable continuation of the night, Ariadna reluctantly agreed. The rest of the group followed suit, and together they piled into Rel's luxurious car for the short drive to his upscale home. Located in one of Mexico City's most exclusive neighborhoods, Rel's house was a clear testament to his wealth and status. Its sleek modern design and opulent interior touches left an impression on anyone who stepped inside. Once at Rel's home, the group gathered in a spacious, tastefully furnished living room. The evening carried on with music, laughter, and drinks, but Ariadna's discomfort seemed to grow more palpable. She excused herself multiple times, stepping away to check her phone or pretending to make calls. Her distant and distracted demeanor did not go unnoticed by the others. Vanessa, observant as ever, began whispering with Rel, glancing occasionally in Ariadna's direction. The subtle exchanges between them only served to heighten the tension in the room. Around midnight, Ariadna finally announced her desire to leave, citing fatigue as the reason. Vanessa, however, convinced her to stay a little longer, promising they would leave together in about 30 minutes. Rel, who had grown unusually quiet by this point, occasionally cast furtive glances at Ariadna, his expression unreadable. As the evening wound down, guests began to trickle out one by one. Ariadna, however, remained one of the last to leave, her presence lingering even as the night drew to a close. The following morning, on October 31, 2022, a grim discovery sent shockwaves through the Morelos community. Two cyclists, out for an early morning ride, discovered a woman lying motionless by the side of a quiet, remote road, far from major highways. The area was isolated, surrounded by sparse vegetation and complete silence, which heightened their sense of unease. The woman's clothing was intact but appeared dirty and slightly torn, and it was clear she had experienced some type of injury. The cyclists, horrified by their discovery, immediately reported the incident to the local authorities. While waiting for law enforcement to arrive, they took photographs of the scene, hoping the images might later assist in identifying the victim or understanding what had transpired. Several hours passed before the police arrived, and during that time, the scene of the crime was virtually undisturbed. Once on site, the authorities cordoned off the area and began a preliminary investigation. Evidence collection revealed tire tracks and markings on the ground, suggesting the scene had been altered. Forensic experts identified signs of a possible confrontation, though the exact circumstances remained unclear. There were no apparent weapon-related injuries, leaving investigators puzzled about the circumstances leading to the woman's death. Complicating matters further, the victim's identity was unknown, as no personal belongings or identification were found at the scene. Hours later, graphic images of the discovery began circulating on social media, sparking widespread speculation and alarm. Among those who saw the photos were friends and family members of Ariadna, who had been reported missing after her attendance at Rel's gathering the night before. Distinctive features on the victim, including visible tattoos, led many of her loved ones to fear the worst. Her brother Omar immediately filed a missing person report with the authorities, urging them to investigate whether the unidentified woman could be his sister. Meanwhile, the state authorities in Morelos officially launched an investigation into the incident. However, their initial response was met with harsh criticism. Witnesses at the scene reported that critical evidence had been poorly documented. When Ariadna's relatives arrived to officially identify the body, their worst fears were heartbreakingly confirmed. Omar, her devoted older brother, recognized his sister immediately by a distinctive tattoo on her shoulder, a heartfelt tribute to their late mother. The sight was overwhelming, and the family was struck by a tidal wave of grief and despair. Adding to their sorrow was the condition in which she was found. There were clear signs that something troubling had occurred, leaving her family with unanswered questions. Unfortunately, the initial statements from the authorities provided little clarity. From the moment they left the morgue, her family was determined to seek justice. Omar and other relatives began calling for a thorough and open investigation, urging authorities to provide clear answers and justice. They quickly organized efforts to raise awareness, reaching out to friends and supporters active online to share Ariadna's story. What started as a small effort soon attracted widespread attention, with many people expressing solidarity across social media platforms. Ariadna's case united the community, inspiring numerous posts and hashtags calling for justice. However, despite increasing public interest, the response from local authorities continued to raise concerns. As the investigation progressed, law enforcement's first step was to contact Rel and Vanessa, the two people last known to have seen Ariadna alive. Their statements became the foundation of the initial narrative. Rel claimed that after the gathering at his house, Ariadna had decided to leave by calling a taxi. He described her as appearing slightly upset, but not visibly distressed. According to him, he had walked her to the door where she departed, heading to an unspecified destination. Vanessa's account supported Rel's claims. She added that Ariadna had mentioned needing to leave and had not disclosed where she was going. The first major issue was the lack of evidence to corroborate their claims about the taxi. Neither Rel nor Vanessa could provide a driver's name, contact information, or any concrete proof to back up their assertions. Investigators, combing through local taxi service records, discovered that although several rides had been logged in the vicinity of Rel's house that night, none of the drivers reported picking up anyone matching Ariadna's description. This glaring discrepancy cast significant doubt on their version of events. The second issue arose from Vanessa's shifting and erratic behavior during questioning. Initially, she was adamant that Ariadna had left alone. Later, however, she admitted that they had argued during the party, a revelation she had previously omitted. Vanessa also implied, in messages to Ariadna's friends, that Ariadna might have been experiencing emotional distress, referencing the unusual social media post Ariadna had shared earlier that evening. While some dismissed it initially as an offhand remark, investigators began considering it a potential clue to her state of mind that night. In one of her messages to Ariadna's friends, Vanessa admitted that she was worried about her involvement, but refused to explain why she thought so. Initial findings from the investigation offered no definitive answers regarding the exact circumstances surrounding Ariadna's death. However, as law enforcement and independent experts continued their work, crucial evidence began to emerge. Surveillance footage from nearby cameras, text messages recovered from suspects' phones, and the results of 2 separate autopsies provided new insights. The first forensic examination concluded that Ariadna's passing was due to respiratory complications. According to the examiner, the presence of food and alcohol in her airways likely contributed to her death. However, this conclusion was met with immediate skepticism from Ariadna's family. They highlighted the numerous bruises and injuries on her body. Dissatisfied with the official findings, the family demanded a second independent autopsy. Under mounting pressure from the public and Ariadna's grieving family, her body was transferred to an independent forensic institute in Mexico City for a more thorough examination. The results of the second autopsy unequivocally contradicted the findings of the initial report. Forensic experts discovered signs indicating that Ariadna had sustained significant injuries, including trauma to the head and visible marks on her arms and legs. These findings suggested Ariadna had attempted to protect herself, making it clear that her passing was not accidental. The official report confirmed that her death wasn't related to alcohol consumption or any unintended circumstances. The reclassification of her death as a criminal act marked a turning point in the investigation. A key piece of evidence came in the form of surveillance footage obtained from the parking garage. The footage revealed concerning details. It showed Rel carrying Ariadna to his car in the early hours of the morning after the party. The video captured him placing her into the vehicle before driving away, actions that raised serious questions about his involvement in the events that followed. In addition to the damning footage, investigators seized the phones of both Rel and Vanessa, uncovering a trove of incriminating messages. The texts detailed their actions in the aftermath of the party and exposed their coordinated efforts to mislead law enforcement and manipulate Ariadna's friends. Vanessa's anxiety about the mounting pressure from Ariadna's family was evident, as was Rel's repeated reassurances that everything was under control. One particularly damning message included detailed instructions from Rel to Vanessa on how to respond to police inquiries without raising suspicion. These instructions demonstrated a clear attempt to obstruct the investigation. Vanessa's communication with Ariadna's friends also revealed her efforts to deflect suspicion. She repeatedly suggested that Ariadna had been emotionally distressed. However, this narrative stood in stark contrast to statements from Ariadna's friends and family, who described her as a cheerful and vibrant individual with no history of such tendencies. Vanessa was the first to be apprehended. Her arrest occurred under the glare of intense public scrutiny, as media outlets and social activists closely followed the developments. During her initial interrogation, Vanessa vehemently denied any involvement, claiming she had gone to bed early on the night in question and was unaware of what transpired. However, her statements were riddled with contradictions. Text messages retrieved from her phone proved that she was fully aware of the events and had even discussed them in detail with Rel. Furthermore, evidence surfaced that Vanessa had deliberately deleted photos, messages, and other incriminating information to obscure her role in the cover-up. Realizing the mounting evidence, Rel ultimately decided to turn himself in, arriving at the authorities' offices accompanied by a team of high-profile lawyers. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Rel maintained his innocence, claiming he did not harm Ariadna. According to his account, he discovered her unresponsive in his home the morning after the party. Panicking and fearing the consequences, he allegedly decided to dispose of her body to avoid suspicion. However, this explanation was riddled with inconsistencies. Investigators noted that Rel's behavior, including his documented efforts to hide the body and fabricate a story, was not consistent with someone acting out of panic, but rather with someone deliberately trying to cover up a crime. As interrogations intensified and more evidence came to light, investigators confirmed that at least one of the suspects had deeper knowledge of the events of that fateful night than they were willing to disclose. Both Vanessa and Rel, however, continued to deny any direct responsibility for Ariadna's death. Instead, their statements focused on justifying their actions and deflecting blame. Their evasive behavior only heightened and became a key factor in their temporary detention. The investigation turned into a meticulous process, with authorities working to unravel the motives and circumstances behind the tragedy. This involved reconstructing the night's events, analyzing technical evidence, and scrutinizing the psychological profiles of everyone involved. Slowly but surely, a clearer picture began to emerge, pieced together from conflicting testimonies, text messages, and forensic analysis. That evening began innocuously at a popular restaurant in downtown Mexico City, where Ariadna, Vanessa, Rel, and several mutual friends gathered for dinner and drinks. Outwardly, the atmosphere seemed cheerful, filled with laughter, casual conversation, and background music. According to witness accounts and text message analysis, Ariadna appeared uncharacteristically quiet and withdrawn. After leaving the restaurant, the group made their way to Rel's upscale home. Vanessa and Rel, as hosts, initially maintained a welcoming demeanor, but their interactions carried an undercurrent of tension. Witnesses reported that Vanessa's sharp remarks toward Ariadna became increasingly pointed as the evening progressed. Ariadna, seemingly determined to avoid conflict, responded with calm composure, deflecting Vanessa's comments without escalation. However, as alcohol began to influence the group's behavior, Vanessa's hostility grew more overt. Witnesses described her raising her voice multiple times, accusing Ariadna of being unfriendly and disrespectful. Although these accusations did not resonate with others present, they added to the escalating tension. Rel, for his part, appeared uncomfortable with Vanessa's behavior but chose to remain neutral, refraining from intervening. A pivotal moment occurred early the next morning when Ariadna was seen attempting to leave the home. Witnesses reported briefly spotting her outside the house, but she returned shortly afterward under unclear circumstances. Investigators later determined that during this time, Vanessa's confrontations with Ariadna had intensified. According to investigators, Vanessa, likely fueled by jealousy and alcohol, accused Ariadna of seeking Rel's attention. This accusation led to an open confrontation. After most of the guests had departed, only a few individuals remained in the house: Vanessa, Rel, and Ariadna. It was during this period that the situation escalated fatally. Vanessa, reportedly heavily intoxicated, began displaying erratic and aggressive behavior. Investigators suspect that it was during this time that the violent incident resulting in Ariadna's fatal injuries occurred. A lingering question that haunted both friends and investigators was why Ariadna had posted such a cryptic message on social media earlier that night. Initially seemed like a flippant or darkly humorous remark, but as the investigation unfolded, its meaning grew more ominous. Friends later revealed that Ariadna may have felt deeply unsettled by the gathering's atmosphere, particularly Vanessa's behavior. The post, they speculated, could have been an attempt to signal distress, attract attention, or even serve as a subtle warning. In the aftermath, Ariadna's son was left in the care of her older brother Omar. As the only male figure remaining in the young boy's life, Omar embraced his new role with unwavering determination. He not only provided financial stability, but also became a source of emotional support for his nephew. Determined to preserve the memory of Ariadna, Omar dedicated himself to raising the boy in an environment filled with the love and warmth that his sister had always provided. They ensured the boy received the care and nurturing he needed to cope with his profound loss, creating a network of unwavering support around him. The preliminary court hearing surrounding Ariadna's death became a crucial milestone in the family's fight for justice. Public and media scrutiny added another layer of pressure, ensuring that each development in the investigation and trial was meticulously documented and openly discussed. The trial, a highly publicized event, centered on the roles of Rel and Vanessa in Ariadna's death. Prosecutors presented a compelling array of evidence, including surveillance footage, phone call records, and recovered text messages. These pieces of evidence provided strong indications of the suspect's involvement, suggesting their connection to the events surrounding Ariadna's passing. Surveillance footage became particularly important for the prosecution, capturing Rel moving Ariadna into his vehicle and driving away from the location, raising significant questions about his actions that night. Text messages revealed a coordinated effort between Rel and Vanessa to obscure the truth and mislead both investigators and Ariadna's friends. The defense, however, sought to challenge the prosecution's narrative, arguing that the tragedy was an unfortunate accident rather than a deliberate act. They questioned the reliability of the evidence, suggesting that it lacked the context needed to establish intent. Despite these efforts, numerous testimonies from witnesses and extensive forensic analyses cast significant doubt on the defense's claims. Expert reports highlighted the injuries sustained by Ariadna, which were consistent with physical assault, further discrediting the notion of an accidental death. A central focus of the trial was uncovering the motives behind the crime. Witnesses familiar with Vanessa painted a picture of a woman prone to impulsive and aggressive behavior, traits that were often exacerbated by alcohol consumption. Testimonies described her as emotionally volatile and prone to jealousy, which aligned with the events leading up to the tragedy. Rel, by contrast, was portrayed as a figure shrouded in mystery. Suggestions about a complicated background and rumored connections to controversial groups added another layer of complexity to the situation. These revelations heightened suspicions about his involvement. The prosecution's case ultimately led to the filing of charges for Ariadna's death. The evidence suggested that the incident could be classified under serious charges according to Mexican law. If convicted, both Rel and Vanessa faced the possibility of up to 700 years in prison.